What's up everybody, Frankie here today with another video, and today we're going to be talking about my experience with my school and how they handled PE during the first few months of the COVID lockdown that we had here in California. Now, undoubtedly by this point things have most likely changed in terms of how PE is done, but this is just my experience during the second half of the second semester last year when I still was in PE. With that being said, I probably should tell you why I was in PE my senior year of high school, because normally you'd get that out of the way by the time sophomore year rolls around. The reason that I was in PE my senior year is because when I was deciding what classes I was going to take for my sophomore year, with the limited choices that you really have when you're in high school, I decided to take choir my sophomore year, which was something that I desperately needed because, oh my goodness, my voice was completely horrible by the end of freshman year. Now, normally, if you were to take another class like choir your sophomore year, you would have to do 7 periods at school, and that would involve you having to come to school early for a 0 period. Now, personally, that wouldn't have been a big deal for me. I wouldn't have had too much issue waking up earlier for school. The only problem was I didn't have my driver's license at that point. So it would have been up to my mother for a good portion of the first semester to get me to school at that earlier time. And because of that, she vetoed the decision for me to take 7 periods during my sophomore year. But I still wanted to do choir, so I ended up not doing PE that year and pushing it off until senior year when I inevitably had to take it. But yeah, with that brief little story about why I took PE my senior year, let's get into what we actually did for PE during the first few months of the COVID lockdown where we still had school. Starting off with the first month of the lockdown, everything that was assigned was really optional, and that was really the same for pretty much every class, because at that point everyone was kind of just trying to figure out how we were going to do things going forward, and we weren't 100% sure how much longer the lockdown would last. Little would we know that it would keep going into December. But we were hopeful back then. We've kind of lost that over these 9 months that we've been in this lockdown. But anyways, the first 3 weeks to a month of our time out of in-person school, pretty much everything that was assigned to us was optional. But then after that brief period of really nothing being required, we started getting actual assignments for each of our classes, and PE was included. Now, since PE is a class that is 100% based on in-class participation, this one was a little weird to actually do, at least from my point of view. So starting off, we would have to make ourselves an account with this fitness app called Sworkit. Honestly, from my experience with it, I don't think that it is a bad workout tool. I just personally had a distaste for it because, it's an assignment for school, not like something that you're doing personally. But for our main exercise, Sworkit was the thing that we would use for like all of the things that weren't involved with things like running. Now, when it came down to running, we were given a few options for which apps we would like to use to track the amount of time we were actually running in a given week. Now, for each week, we were required to do 2 runs and 2 Sworkit sessions. For the runs, you could either do 15 minutes of running with an 8 mile per hour or faster pace, or a 30-minute walk. And for the Sworkit things, you would have to do 2 20-minute sessions for those. And for the first week of that, I didn't know that those were supposed to be 20 minutes long, so I just had them set at the default. But it didn't really matter in the end because I don't think my teacher was being too stringent on that sort of thing. If it was like a one-time thing, mind you. But yeah, that was the stuff that we were supposed to be doing. If I'm being completely honest, I didn't entirely do that, at least not to the T. What I would do for these workouts each week is I would go for a bike ride to one of the schools, which was around a 15 to 20 minute bike ride there, with me going at a pretty good pace, and then same thing going back. But while I was at this school, I would do the the Saitama workout, which is basically the 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and the 10-kilometer run. That was basically the bike ride there and back, which was probably a little more than 10 kilometers, but whatever. That's what I was going for with the whole thing. So I didn't really ever do the circuit workouts or actually go for a dedicated run during the entirety of the second half of that semester. And personally, I feel like I did more exercise than was required for the things that were actually on the assignments for each week, but I still did everything that I could to make it look like I actually did those things, when in actuality I was just doing my own thing. So for things like the runs, I would start the running tracker on my phone a few minutes before I actually started going for the bike ride out to the school, in order to help myself get something close to an actual human pace of like 7 to 8 minute miles. And also it helped that on this path that I was taking, there was also quite a few crosswalks that I would have to wait for in order to progress with the rest of the trip that I was on. So all of this came together to make it pretty easy to make each of these quote-unquote runs seem legit, because they were all around 8 to 7 mile per hour averages, and they were around 15 to 16 minutes long each, which was within the given parameters of the assignment. And for the circuit workouts, I would basically just pick one of the workouts and put it to the 20-minute timer and then just let it go. And then I would just do my own thing within that given time frame. And there would be times where I would actually finish what I was doing before the circuit workout was actually finished with its timer. But yeah, that's how I got through the last half of the semester with PE, with all of the lockdown stuff that was going on and the uncertainty of everything at the beginning of the lockdown we had here in California. But yeah, at the end of the day, I actually really did enjoy the time. But yeah, at the end of the day, I actually did really enjoy the time that I spent doing my own personal workouts. And honestly, I wouldn't consider myself much of like a fitness guru or anything like that, like a fitness freak or anything like that. But whenever I get myself going with physical fitness and stuff like that, I always try to make it something entertaining for myself. And along with me doing everything that I was doing, something else that I would do on these workouts is I would just be playing the Doom Eternal soundtrack on my phone and seeing how long it would take me from the start of the journey to getting back home, in terms of how long I was through the actual soundtrack. And towards the beginning, it would take like around 80 minutes, so like an hour and a half. And then towards the end, it was very, very close to like an hour. And personally, when I was doing this outside of the assignments for my PE class, I would try my best to like push myself to make my workouts under an hour, and that was something that I really enjoyed trying to push myself to do. But yeah, lately, not so much. I really haven't done anything like this in at least a month, and I mean, right now it's pretty cold, at least by California standards, so it might be a little while before I actually go out and do something like these workouts anytime soon. But yeah, with that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video today and this little story time discussion type thing, I guess. And if you are new around here, please consider hitting that subscribe button for more content like this in the future. And tell me in the comments, how did your school handle the various lockdowns that were going around at the beginning of COVID? And yeah, with that being said, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.